Hello, can you hear me? Can I confirm that you can hear me, please? I say good evening, everyone. My name is Kingsley Adiole, and with me tonight would be Nancy Baba Ali. You're all welcome to Digital Skillup Africa Project Management class. It's that time where we delve further into project management and we look clearly at some of the issues that has presented itself in the course of the session. So within the week, we started up the session by looking at project monitoring and control. And we've been able to look at a few things and we have really progressed. And tonight, by way of saying good evening to everyone, I may not be able to mention all our names, but can I see? Yeah, I can see. I think I can start with Remy. Remy says, good evening, Esther. Good evening, Ido. Comrade Taiwo, Philip, Ositadima, Tolulope, Chooks, Mary, Oluwakemi, Stella, Banji, Jewel, Dapo, and a whole lot. So, Comrade says that can hear and see. Okay, I think that's quite good. And right, how has it been? How has your day been? How has it been managing projects, um, little businesses, medium sized, and let's say also advanced level projects? I hope we've been able to make very, very, very good use of the lessons we have learned from the sessions we've had over the past 5 weeks. And yeah, that's very, very pretty good. Akamola Felashe, Joseph Okunfeiwa Akinwale, you're all welcome tonight. So let's delve quickly by way of Akinwale says it's a very wet day. So let's do a recap of where we started and then we get back to where we are today. All right, so let's share what you've learned so far, project monitoring and control, earned value management, and performance tracking. How has it been for you? And let's see if we've been able to gather a whole lot. And if there are questions as well, we can take them, I think, between now and the next 30 minutes, the next 15 minutes rather. We should be able to do justice to recap and then take a few questions before we delve into tonight's class. Once again, you are welcome. Okay, so good evening and good evening. The evenings are still flooding in left, right, and center. So you're welcome tonight. Okay, so there's a whole lot to learn tonight. Okay, so recap. Has it been for you? Has the week been? And looking at project monitoring and control, what have you learned? And value management, performance tracking, how has it been? Okay, so I think let's take it from there. Okay, all right, you have questions, then you can also bring them on board. All right, so we started by looking at project monitoring as a way of regular observation of activities to check project progress at different stages. Okay, and we were able to draw some inferences and conclusions that it is very needful for us to track performance, to track our projects rather. Okay, yeah. So, and control is just like saying a mitigation measure after something has happened. Okay, for example, there's a defect, there's a damage, there's something which was not part of the project plan that happened, and we need to control. Okay, so we need to do damage limitation or damage control to it. And by way of doing that, we are able to look at the activities and see, okay, these are areas where we've not really done so well. We need to take a holistic look and see what exactly we have done, what we have not done well. So we try to use data from um, a specified dataset analysis to review what to control. And we did mention that we can monitor time, we can monitor input and output two ways. By way of input, we did mention time, money, resources, materials, tasks, quality and technical performance. And we did mention also that for output, we can measure progress, costs, when the job starts, actually, when the job is completed. And we can also measure variances, okay? And changes maybe in the design or any other change that comes into the project. And yeah, we looked at, we did mention that the constraints as well do affect the project. So it's very key to okay, end value, actual value. Okay. All right. So performance management. Thank you, Blessing. I can see what you learned. Cost variance being the difference between the earned value and the actual cost. Okay. So these are some of the things which we actually looked at, and the positive cost variance and negative cost variance as well. These are, yeah, sure. So some of the activities that formed part of our discuss. So we did mention that the triple constraints, which are time, cost, and performance, would definitely always struggle to um, side by side the project. So we need to look at how we can correct any deviations from the project plan. Okay, and then we delved into what end value management actually is, where we said that it really involves looking at those early warning signs that we discover on our projects based on the data that has been analyzed, the variances, either scheduled variances or cost variances, and the trends that we have seen or noticed or observed during the course of the project. So we cannot take away the fact that every project has its challenges. Okay, we came to understand here too that sometimes there can be issues with underspending, sometimes we can be behind schedule, or at other times the work packages, the efforts that have been putting side by side these work packages may not really be a true reflection of what has actually been done. And at other times, the time estimated could have elapsed, and um, cost and schedule can also affect it. And then possibly the value for money, it's not really as expected. So that's why we need to bring aboard earned value management, looking at those early warning signs and see how we can bring in some corrective actions into the system. Okay. And also see how we can consolidate the progress that has been made on the project. And then we talked about the PV, the CV, and then the EV. Okay, so just concentrate tonight. I'm doing a recap. So whatever you missed, just try to listen. I'm sure you can get something tonight. Okay, all right. So it's very key, very important. Okay, so when we talked about the end value management, we mentioned plan value. Okay, in terms of when we say plan value, in terms of the monetary terms, where you schedule, okay, where you try to schedule the planned costs of an amount of work that has been scheduled to be performed by a a particular day or a particular date or time. Okay, so how much you have actually planned to accomplish at a given point in time. Okay, it's just a schedule. Okay, it could be you want to purchase 10 bags of cement. That's still a planned value because it's still on the plan. It's a schedule. Okay, then we talked about actual cost being the cost that you have actually incurred to accomplish the work that has been done till date, while the earned value is the costs in terms of value. Okay, what has actually been accomplished, all right, by that particular person or the project manager, the amount of the budget that have actually been spent for a given amount of work completed. So when you look at how much you spent, you now see in you can now quantify and say, oh, from this amount that we spent on this particular milestone or this particular task, we were able to achieve this. Okay, so you've earned that value for it. Okay, and then we also talked about the estimate at completion, which is actually the actual cost and the plus the estimated time of completion. And so these are just the econometrics that we talked about. So so when you estimate to complete, it means that, for example, part of the budget, you've looked at it as a project manager and discovered that um, for one reason or the other, we are going to incur extra cost. We're not able to meet up with the actual budget. Okay, and you need to add a measure of extra funding to it. So you need to estimate at completion to add it up to the actual cost to give that estimate at completion. So there's a needed extra funding, like you've already budgeted 170,000 and you needed 10,000 naira to add it up to make it 180. So that's your actual cost, 170, plus the estimated time or total cost to add up to make the project completed is what you add to that. Okay, so we also looked at um, yeah, variance at completion. Okay, we said that at completion is the budget, the budgeted actual cost less the estimated actual cost. So that variance, that discrepancy between what you spent and what you are adding up to spend to get to resolve all the projects, okay, to see that it's actually completed is that the variance. Okay, so we further looked at some metrics. We looked at cost metrics. Then I think someone in the chat box is actually asking that I think that's either Jeremy or so. So earned value is the budgeted cost of the work actually completed to date. So um, what that value that is earned from your actual, okay, you spent something, you're seeing you're seeing value, you're seeing value at the end of the day. So um, it's just like where you have a painter who budgeted 100,000 naira to paint a wall. So if he finishes painting half of the wall, I think for me he has done half of the work. So the end value is like 50K so far. So the other value which has not been earned needs to be completed. You get. So until it gets to the point where um, yeah, just ask your questions. I'm looking through and doing the explanations at the same time so that we don't go back to this after tonight. Okay. So, and so the analogy here is that for the end value, where you have a painter who has was given a job of 100,000 naira to paint a wall, and so far he has actually painted half of the wall, means that the earned value from that particular activity is worth like 50,000 naira because it's half of it. By the time he paints the other half, okay, that's it. So regardless of um, whether they spent any other amount of it, okay, so that is it. So the budgeted cost of work that has actually been performed, okay, something must have been done. All right. We did mention that your end value will definitely remain at zero until some work is done. Okay. When no work is done, earned value remains at zero. So EV is equal to zero. But the moment that work is done, your EV or your B, your budgeted cost of work performed, leaves the point zero and moves up the ladder to possibly maybe, let's say, maybe one or half or something like that. Okay, then we talked about actual cost, where actual cost is the the total cost actually incurred for the work from when you started that your project till date. So it's a measure of the real amount that you have actually spent. I think Ndukuba have been able to answer that. Okay, so that is it. So the end value is actually independent of how much you actually spent. It only considers what you actually budgeted for the work that has been physically completed. Okay, so sometimes you may not have completed the entire project, but you can see the end value in what have actually been spent so far. So I think that is that's the difference between AC and EV. Okay, so earned value is a measure of what you've actually, in terms of work that have actually been done, that have actually been done, you can see the value in it. But actual value is for all you've spent so far, okay, in monetary terms. All right, then we talked about I think I've mentioned planned value, which is the scheduled budget. Okay, you've not spent it. This is what it should actually be. You know why I kept using Sassanel taking her to the US is to buttress the fact that I don't think anybody has any issue with planned value. So I think after that we looked at cost variance, okay, which is earned value less actual cost. Okay, so and we mentioned that when you have a negative CV, can we recall negative CV? Okay, where we had a diagram that talked about positive CV, negative CV. Okay, and we said that you can actually say that when it's negative, it means that your project is actually behind schedule or you're under budget, and then also to note that the deviations from your work plan is not actually a measure of what has actually changed in the cost. So it could have been as a result of any other project constraints, okay, that have affected your project. Then we talked about also scheduled performance index, where we said the SPI is the earned value divided by the planned value. Okay, right. So where the earned value is actually your EV, and then your PV is actually the planned value. Yeah. scheduled variance, I think we've talked about that, where if your SV is 0, your scheduled variance, it means your project is right on schedule. But if you have a negative SV, it means your project is actually behind schedule. When you have a positive CV, it means your project is actually ahead. But where the difference comes in now is the cost variance, where we looked at um, where if the cost variance is positive, then your project is on the budget. I think I explained that with a web page that needed to be designed, where we had the developer, okay, was giving $2,000, and at the end of the day, that $2,000, Esther, I think I've explained AC and EV. They are not the same thing, okay? AC is in terms of your monetary terms, where you are, the actual cost you spent from the day you started the project until the day that you are seeing the latest on that project. But your earned value is um what you, in terms of the work performed, okay? So it's the money, is the money in performance terms, okay? So it may not be a total of all the work that has been done from the beginning of the project until date. It could even be, it could be a fraction of the project, or a milestone that needed to be achieved, or at one point or the other. So depending on what you are actually working on. So like in the case of a painter who was given 100,000 naira, okay, actually it's possible he has spent the 100,000 naira on purchasing items and all that. But what we saw at the end of the day was he had actually painted half of the wall with that resources. So the end value from it is 50, 50, 50, or half. That's the end value from that particular task. The end value is no longer 0. Okay. So I don't know why we are confused, or peace is confused. What I'm saying to you tonight, just listen. All we are doing is a recap. Okay. For those who missed one thing or the other in the previous class, you are to pick from where you didn't get it correctly, or rewatch the previous class videos, and then should be able to ask your question where exactly you're having issues, and then I will explain. But when you say you are kind of confused, with it's a generic statement that I don't actually know where you are confused or not. So please, if I'm able to answer your questions, please, in the chat box, you should be able to say, please, I think you have actually addressed my question. Okay. So now we were talking about where we stopped in the last class, that it, like the developer was giving 2,000 naira, $2,000. With the 2,000, maybe the dollars, I'm just using 200,000 naira, for example. And at the end of the day, he was supposed to do a landing page. That's the home page, what you see when you open up the web page after entering the URL link of the website. And then was supposed to add an about us page that explains who are the members of the organization and things like that. So he ended up spending 180,000 naira. Now, the essence, that 20,000 naira on top extra that he had, was because what he was supposed to purchase as part of the project of the web page was doing, actually he got it at a cheaper rate. So we had a balance. So it's under the budget. It's positive. It's under budget. That's the cost variance. It's under budget. Now, over budget is, he had 200,000 naira. From the 200,000 naira, there was an issue. He needed to hire a technical expert to handle one of the software certificates that didn't go so well. So he needed to get an extra 50,000 naira, making it now 250,000 naira. So because the original budget is 200,000 naira, that extra 50,000 naira that makes it 250,000 is now what we call over budget. I think it's quite clear enough to understand. Okay, Blessing, is the explanation meeting your expectation tonight? Okay, tonight's class have not started, but I'm trying to do a recap because there's been a lot of questions in previous class, and we're trying to address them so that we can get to today's class, okay, with clearer understanding. Okay, so having explained um, the cost variance and the scheduled variance, we also looked at that in variance analysis, we need to understand what the root cause or what the problem statement is. What actually happened? What caused the variance? We need to address it using any method you so desire to. I think I mentioned fishbone analysis, where you need to look at what happened, when it happened, why did it happen, what can we do to correct, what corrective action can we take, okay, and what will be the expected result of that corrective action. So by the time we're able to address that, it helps us look at a holistic picture. Then we talked about management reserve, that padding, okay, that is added to a project to cater for unexpected costs that are within the scope of the project. So it's not an allowance for you to change the scope of the project, neither is it part of the cost estimate, but it's just added by the upper management, where I did mention we had 100 million naira, and for one reason or the other, you needed as a project manager to discuss with the upper management and say, we need an extra cushion of 10,000 naira and 10 million naira in case anything happens for unexpected costs. So, but they are still within the project scope, not out of the scope of the project. So the 10 million can still be accommodated within the scope of the project. So let's say your general scope budget is 110,000, for example, 110 million, but you decided that, yes, I think with 100 million, we are going to execute this project without any issues. But let's add that 10 million naira factor just to accommodate whatsoever would be unexpected for this project. So with that, we we then finally had to look at we talked about something else, something very important. We looked at performance tracking, why it is needful to track performance. And you can agree with me that there's nothing we do in life that, even if you are progressing, you need to take stock of what how your progress is. You need to understand that what you're doing, you need to track it. Okay, if every organization needs to track what they're doing, because it can bring success or failure, and we can track performance by quality or by quantity, and it helps us to understand what we are doing, if we're actually meeting our goals, and also to check if the customers are satisfied, and statistically to know if we are in control and where we need to make improvements where necessary. And I went as far as providing some characteristics that can form part of measurement for performance. We can look at quantity, we can look at cost, we can look at the timing, we can look at accuracy and accountability functions, the standards we use for our performance, the policies, the procedures, and also the aesthetics, how the feel that your project receives, and then what people perceive about that particular project, and then the quality of the service delivery. So after we talked about that, we also going to look at tonight how to manage changes in our project. Okay, so it's very key for us to understand that in all that we do, managing changes and updates in project lifecycle is very important. So tonight, um, from when we started in the first few weeks, I did mention that I said try to get something, learn something new when you come to a new day's class. Try not to focus more on the previous class. Whatever you didn't get then, just come with your questions and leave it at that. When it's time for questions, we can actually take them. I see a lot of questions. I try to address them while I facilitate the class so that we can always get understanding. Okay. And there are also other colleagues here that can also provide clarity in case there are areas you don't get well. So tonight, every class is an opportunity to learn something new. Okay, whatever you don't understand, you can always Google. You can also do always go extra mile to get understanding. Okay, so I hope we can collectively learn. So if you're ready for tonight's class, please can I confirm in the chat box that yes, I am ready, I am ready, I am ready. So I need to be sure that we are ready tonight. Who is ready? If you're ready, I am ready. Thank you, Esther. Thank you. We've really done justice to a recap tonight. So, whoever has missed, whatever you have missed within the week, I think tonight has provided a platform for everyone to be at the same page while we look at managing changes and updates in project management. So, there is every need to understand that changes to any particular project are inevitable. Whether you are baking bread, or you are making biscuits, or you are an event planner, or you are a procurement person, or you work with an NGO, or you provide goods and services, or you are in charge of a transport organization, or you are into construction, or whichever project that you find yourself, one thing is sure, there will be change. Change is inevitable. It's the only constant thing in life. So it is how well we manage these changes and the request for any change that occurs in a project that will definitely make the difference between the success and the failure of that particular project. And that is where we are tonight. So we will be looking at how to manage these changes. And it's very key to understand that change management actually refers to the task of managing change. So when we say you want to manage change, all we're saying is you want to make change in a planned or systematic way. So it may not just be you just start shouting, being rowdy, or the likes. It means that you must plan it properly. It must be systematic such that it would flow in sync with your project. So it is very important that every project manager understand or have a process in place to manage the changes in their projects. Changes will happen, so you may as well manage them well and thus have more chance for succeeding in your project. Let's take for an example. What if you are a manager in a bread making factory? After mixing the dough, you discover that the texture is not well enough to provide what you need as it needs to be. So at some point, you may need to speak with the the baker or those who are in that department that see there is need for us to adjust the mix of the dough to get a better quality bread. The one we made a few hours ago, it's the texture, it looks so gummy. It's too elastic for distribution. So what do we do? Now, what you're thinking about is there's a process. You just don't walk up and say, start mixing, remix the dough. There must be a systematic process of doing it. Okay. And that is what we are saying tonight, that every project has a process. So in change management process, you must identify first the potential change. Okay. We must be able to identify what exactly is the change that we need to implement. You need to assess that change. In assessing the change, you're looking at the overall outcome. How would this affect the project process? Okay. So, Stella. Okay. So, then we also need to plan the change. It has to be systematic, integrating it in such a way that I think now we have informed the baker. The next is, do the baker need to, what does the baker need to do? Confirm the mix that would be appropriate to get what was discussed. Okay, a better outcome. All right. And then we now review. At the end, after implementing, did we actually get the correct mix? Okay, the texture we were looking for, the taste, you know, did it happen? If it didn't, then we go back to reassess. That's now review. Okay, and after review, from the review, you are coming back to assessing the change, plan the change again, implement it, and then if it goes so well, you can now close the change. So that is actually the process. I'm sure that we understand. Okay. So Okafor, don't mind Stella. Stella's question will be answered by her. I'm sure she knows how to. By the time we are done with change management process, she will definitely answer it. Okay, that's on a lighter note. Then so we now know the 6 processes of the change management process. Identify the change, assess it, plan it, implement, review by way of feedback, and then close the change. All right. So when we are able to do that, it means that we are going forward. So the project manager is actually responsible for overseeing that the effort that the team puts in place provides the necessary change, which must be integrated into the project practice and that the overall objectives are met. At the end of the day, what we want to see is that the objectives of this particular project was met. It's either that we get a very good bread that customers, even within and outside the target environment, looks for the bread. Okay, can we say review is also monitoring the change? You have, yeah, it's part of it. What's actually review? Review is the outcome of implementing a change. Okay, so yes, that is it. So when you close the change, it means that you've actually adopted it. Yes, for you to close the change, it means that the objective have been met. That is what it means. Okay. So if it's not met, you have to, from that review, from the review phase, you go back again. So does this change has limited chances? It's very possible that the change process may not have all the chances that is necessary. Okay, by the time you implement the first change, resources are going, mind you. Okay, so what you budgeted for, so you can now understand that as a project manager, when the review is ongoing, resources are also affected. That's why when we say constraints to the project, resources are part of it. So when you want to implement a change, the first thing is, after identifying it, you need to assess this change. What would be the outcome of the change on the project to the overall objectives of the project. So it's not just about implementing a change or identifying a change. It must meet the overall project objectives, and that is the goal of it. Okay. So, and there's also what we call resistance to change. The way people will react when there is a change there's a change process. It differs. Okay. So sometimes the change will bring imbalance. Okay. So what is inequilibrium? You say inequilibrium is that imbalance when you have like those days we did what we call the pendulum. When you swing to this side, you swing to the other side. It will only remain at the middle if there's an equilibrium. Okay. But when one side of it is tilted to the other side such that it becomes on an inclined plane, definitely it will no longer be balanced. So sometimes these changes must affect either the teams, one team, one department, multiple teams, multiple departments. It may also affect the supervisor, whoever is in charge. Okay, what kind of responses would be received? The procedures may be altered. You may even see someone who will say no. Um, I don't think this idea you are bringing on board is going to sell. Okay. Sometimes you see it on site when you said that we've mixed this mixture is not really so good. Say, leave it, mix it like that. We want to get 5,000 blocks, okay, from 2 bags of cement. And there will always be a resistance. Okay. Review is testing if the change is good or bad. Yeah, that is it. So can a project manager work remotely? Definitely, yes, you can. But I don't always advise so completely remotely, because if it's something that requires you to be not just a mind's eye, you must be there. You need to see what is actually going on. By the time you come out of remote, then the project has suffered such that you may not be able to, even when you try damage control, it will be very difficult. So sometimes these changes are within the system or the organization, which may not be liked by many persons, thus leading to resistance to change. So I'm sure that we understand what resistance to change is. Even in our daily living, even in the offices where we work, in the businesses that we do, there is always one resistance to change. There are people who will tell you that this is how we've been doing it for the past 20 years and it must be like that. Okay. So, yeah, sure, fine. I don't have a problem with that. I once worked with an organization. I worked in Australia, New Zealand, and Malaysia at the point, but was working from Nigeria. So it can work. Okay. So King David says that the organization is undergoing a terrible change in the project we are currently implementing, and that requires a lot of budget realignment. And that is it. That is it. So change must come with um, its inherent issues. Okay. So these constraints we've talked about, time, costs, performance, they are all going to fight with it. They're going to struggle with whatever change that is going to come on board. And that is it. That is it. Okay. So yeah. So it's sometimes, even while working remotely, your ideas may help to propel the organization to the next level. So but I'm sure communication is key to the job that you are doing. You need to communicate at all times. You must have people who you're working with that needs to communicate every time. Okay. So changes are inevitable. It is how you manage them that will make the difference within either your project remaining successful or not. So we can have different types of changes. We have anticipatory changes where we prepare for changes in advance, like when a senior employee resigns. Okay, so maybe possibly before he resigns, I've already given a signal that it's resigning, And then change is inevitable, Buni. We can't sometimes you don't even know when the change would come. Sometimes it just comes unexpectedly, and you can't resist it. You have to apply the change. Is it that a project can go smoothly from the beginning to the end? Sometimes, see, you can predict when you talk about change. You can't definitely predict. It can come in between, anytime, anywhere, anyhow. It can happen. Okay, what if the senior employee doesn't tell you that he's resigning? What do? You just come to the office the following morning and you hear that the senior manager has resigned. Even project managers do resign. Football coaches do resign. Okay, okay, so they do resign. So what do? So anticipatory is from the word anticipate. You already preparing in advance. You knew that this person is going to resign. And let's keep our questions for now. Okay, just post your questions. I can see them. I'll respond to them later. So then we have reactive, where unexpected changes or events occur, like there's a crisis situation where the organization is facing affect your project. It's just for you to it's just for us to understand that the process, change, like I said, is inevitable. You don't plan for it, but sometimes you can anticipate that this is going to happen. You've already predicted. There are issues, like I said some days ago, that there are crisis situations that we can predict. Some of them we can predict. Sometimes you can't predict. It just happens. Okay, and then we have incremental change, where gradually you implement a change over an extended period of time, like where you are adding new features to an existing application, like your bank. For example, you are using GT Bank app, First Bank. From time to time, when you open up the app, you see that there's an update. It requests you to update. So that's incremental change. Okay, previous slide, what happened? Okay, okay, so I think yeah, where you have a significant change that sometimes you can't really deal with. So it's like that. Sometimes it happens. So, and then there could also be strategic changes, where significant changes that can impact on the overall direction of the organization. So sometimes it can be that hello, can I confirm? Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Hello, hello, can you hear me? Hello. Okay, all right, fine. So sometimes we have strategic changes in the organization, such that maybe they are changing the project manager because of for inefficiency, and a few team members. So it happens. Okay, so sometimes is like that. Okay, and then this form is just a change request form. I don't know if you're really going to see it very clearly, but um, it's just an example of a change request. Okay, so normally, let me just explain the change request before we go for a break. So it normally has the name of the project. Sometimes the project can have a number. Yeah, I understand. It's not very clear, but just listen. Okay. So usually a change request form um, has a name, okay, the name of the project number, okay, the reference, you have to reference the change, okay, like let's say ngo slash o1 slash 2. There must be like a change name so that you can always refer to the change, okay, and then a date and who is actually raising the change request, okay. So when you're able to do that, okay, all right. So then you now describe the change and the reason for the change, okay. So normally, then if there are any other things you want to add, okay, all right. For those that are using laptop, it's quite clear. So then you write your name, the name of the project manager, and sign, okay, your name and signature, all right, and the dates why you're doing that, and then who is actually bringing up the change and the sponsor of the project. It's that simple, okay. The most important thing is why you want to bring a change and for what reason, and you need to sign it, and that is it. Okay, so that is it. So that's actually it. So when we return from the break, we would um, delve into the second half of the session. Please take this time to sign your attendance, please. Okay. When we return, we would continue. My name is Kingsley Adiole. See you in the second half of the class. Hello and welcome back to the second half of tonight's session. I hope it has been very, very engaging, interactive, and interesting. If you are back, can I confirm? Just say yes, I am back and ready for the second half. Yeah, who is ready for the second half tonight? All right, are we ready? Who is ready? Are we ready for the second half tonight? Away with it. Okay, let's go back to tonight's session. We were actually talking about the change request form, and usually there is no special format. You can also design one for your organization or your project. All it needs is your name, the name of the project, the number if the project has a number, okay, and then it should also have a change request reference number, okay, because you may be having different change requests to make. So, and then what exactly is the change and why, okay? And then would it incur any costs, resources? What will be the benefits? Are there any risks? You have to list them, okay? What is the priority? Is it important? Is it urgent? Is it high? Is it priority high, low, medium? And then at the end of the day, you have to include a signature and name of the project manager. If the project manager is the change coordinator implementing the requests, that means his name will definitely be there. And then the sponsor, the name of and signature of the sponsor. Meaning, so once it is signed by the sponsor, it means possibly that it has been approved. Okay. And that is it. Okay. So then let's look at a topic which we have looked at earlier, but we just want to add flesh to it. Okay, agile methodology. So when we talk about agile methodology, I'm sure um, over 50% of the participants here tonight can relate with agile methodology. So if it is new to you, you can just confirm in the chat box that it is new to me. So, but if it's not new to you, then there's no need. Okay. So let's talk about agile methodology tonight. Okay. It's been there for quite some time. Okay. So, for about 10 years, over a decade now, okay, over a decade now, we have over 94% of organizations globally that have implemented or are using the Agile methodology. So I'm going to explain it in a layman's term so that you can understand. Okay. So when we talk about project management methodologies, one of them is Agile. Okay. We have traditional and modern methodologies. Okay. But in project management, we have five phases. Okay. We have the initiation, which we have seen, planning, execution, M&E, performance or monitoring, and then we have project closeout or closure. Okay. But in between, there are different ways you can navigate your project. So like a football coach can decide to play a 4-4-2, a 4-2-1-3, a 5-3-2, whatever method he wants to use. The end point is we want to win the match. Okay. All right. So these are methods, methodologies. Okay. So we have traditional methods. Okay, for executing our projects, which could just be a linear method, okay, from one step to the other, okay. And then we have more modern approaches, okay. All right. When we talk about traditional model, we saw or we talked about some weeks back waterfall model, okay, where you look at the requirements and then you have to design, you have to implement, you have to verify, and then you also need to maintain. So that's generally the route that it operates with. Okay. But now we are not actually focusing on traditional methods like waterfall, but tonight we will be talking about agile methodology. Okay. Why agile? Okay. Agile is a process. Okay. So, and we are going to see why we say it is a process. Okay. It is incremental in nature. Okay. From one phase to the other, but we'll see why it is agile. Okay. It is very much open to change at any point in time. Okay. And it can encourage feedback, end-to-end feedback, either from the end user or the producer or the project manager. At any point in time, anything can happen. We can work, we can change. Okay. We can move back, we can move forward. Okay. So at the end of the day, we want something that is working. And that's just the idea. Okay. That's the idea. Okay. Something that works at the end of the day. So when we talk about agile, okay, it encourages everybody to work together. We can hold people accountable and we can communicate face to face in any other form that is deemed fit. But everybody is working together for the same goal. The stakeholders and those who are generally the stakeholders work together to ensure that whatever we are doing meets the needs of both the customer and the goals of the organization. Okay, so as a project manager, your goals and objective must be met. And while you're trying to do that, you must also meet the needs or satisfy the needs of the stakeholders. So any process that aligns with the concept, what we call the Agile Manifesto, which 17 software developers that met in Utah, USA, to discuss lightweight development methods. How can we make things easier in a project process to see that you don't have to stress yourself so much? Can't we just work together? Can't we look at if there's an issue like the bread producing firm that I talked about, okay, the bakery, okay, at any point in time we can adjust the mix and bring out something else. Okay, we can do chocolate bread, we can do bread, we can start with XYZ process, but at the end of the day we are adding wheat to the process. At the end of the day we are making chocolate. So we can alter things at different times. Okay, so this manifesto is all about better ways of developing softwares or processes, doing it in a way that we can help others to do it, and the values are so clear. And let's look very quickly at the 12 principles. I'm just going to explain it, so don't bother really. If you want to look through all the English that is in it, fine, but get the concept, get the understanding. So number one is that the major idea is to satisfy the customer. Whatever we are doing, at the end of the day, we must satisfy the customer. Okay, so the concept came from software development. Okay, but now we are relating it generally to project management processes. So number one, we must satisfy the customer. Number two, we must be able to welcome any change requirements at any time, even if it is late in the development process. So it's very key to understand that. Before I go ahead, please remember we are all inviting you to our tech event coming up on the 31st of May by 7 p.m. Okay, it's called Breaking into Tech. It's gonna talk about the global approach to the fourth industrial revolution. So please don't forget, tick your calendar. Okay, 31st May 2025, 7 p.m. is the time where we'll be looking at breaking into tech, a global approach to the fourth industrial revolution. Let's help delve back to our study class tonight, where we're talking about the 12 principles of agile methodology. Number one, you must satisfy the customer. You must be open to change. We must deliver something that is working. Okay, from the very first few weeks that we've started that project. So it doesn't. We don't need to wait until the third month to start seeing results. No, no matter how small, no matter how incremental, the change must be seen. It must be obvious, okay? And then we should be able to look at a situation where all stakeholders, all team members must work together throughout the project. We're not leaving out anybody, okay? Everybody is working together for the same purpose. And then we must build projects around people who are highly motivated. Remember, we talked about building high performance teams. Okay, so we must give them an environment where they can contribute positively to the project. However, either ways, they must what? Come to an understanding. And then the working software. So whatever is the primary thing that drives that project must be the main measure of progress. So the bread we are making, for example, without the dough, we cannot achieve success. So we must hold it tight. We must hold it strong. Okay. Hello, can I confirm? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can I confirm? Can you hear me, please? All right. Okay. All right. I guess the network. But let's move on. So the process, the agile process, must be sustainable. Okay. So everybody about this project, the sponsors, the developers, the users, all stakeholders must be able to work together and maintain a constant pace. Okay. We must move together. We must be in this together. Okay. I cannot say the last information I got about this project is 3 weeks ago when we are in today. So you must know whatever needs to be done today, not like you must be backward. Okay, you must be in the team. You must understand whatever is happening, and then there must be a constant attention to excellence. Okay, so whatever will make the project beat in standard, we must do it together. Okay, all right, sir. Okay, guess someone didn't hear clearly, but I think I'll take that again. So the process must be sustainable. Okay, all right, everybody must work together, and it must be as simple as possible. So we must maximize the amount of work that has not been done to the work that has been done. So we must keep it simple. Okay, don't make things look more complex for any other person. And then we must get the best in terms of technical support, the best in terms of expertise, the best of designs, whatever we need that will make that project the best is what we should go for. So at different intervals, regular intervals, the team must reflect on how we must be more effective and be in tune with that and adjust our behaviors to suit that what that reflection. So from time to time we must ask ourselves, this is where we are. We can't just rest on our successes. We must look for ways to be even more better, get things done more accurately. And that's why we said building high performance teams is very key to success in our projects. All right, so when we look at the development cycle of Agile, okay, you see that it's very key understanding it that like you must plan, you must design, you must test, okay, and you must release the product at the end of the day, okay. But sometimes if there is a product backlog, okay, then you bring yourself on board today. What are we doing? Sprint. So what we call sprint is um gradual small things we do generally to make the work how it's supposed to be. So at the end of the day, it means that we are working together, everybody. We are taking it gradually. We're not rushing it, but we want to get something done well. Okay, we want to get it done as at when it's supposed to be done. Okay, today I think in the market we see a whole lot more of chocolate biscuits. Okay, different kinds. Yale is coming up with its own. Cabin is coming in with its own, and a whole lot of other biscuit manufacturing companies. Everybody is doing something around chocolates. Okay, like I think recently Golden Mon has milk. Okay, so you don't need to purchase a sachet of milk separately. Now there is milk added to Golden Mon for you to take. So it's just for you to make it, and then no need for extra milk. So what it means is that now people are thinking, what can we do to get the system better? So you can recall, like, look backward. How many years ago Golden Mon came out in the market, and now they are thinking of this change. So before they got to this point, some persons sat down and they started thinking, how can we bring this together? So it's good to maintain a face-to-face conversation in a remote job. Today we have WhatsApp. So many remote organizations within and outside Nigeria are implementing. They have platforms that they use to communicate. It may not be face-to-face, but daily they communicate such that everybody knows what is supposed to be to do and when is supposed to do it, and at what time they ought to do it. So no slacking behind. Everybody is you're on top your job. Okay. So yes, sprint means small incremental work that you do. You are breaking your work into gradually. Okay. I hope you can you understand that, Taiwo? Okay. Yeah. So yeah, so short, you're doing it in short periods, okay? All right. You're completing work in short times, short times. You're getting it done. You know what when you say you are sprinting in sports, for example, it means you're taking a short dash, okay, to get to the finish line. All right. So that is it. So you can see at the right side of the screen that the final product at the end of the day is achieved. Okay. So that's agile. So it uses a generic framework, all right, to achieve. Okay, so let's summarize that diagram. Okay, if you didn't get the diagram, then what it means that it makes your work flexible. Okay, we are open to change according to the new requirements. We are ready to break our work into small cycles. That's why I said in sprint, for as many that know Scrum. Okay, so Scrum uses that sprint framework to achieve what it is doing. Okay, thank you, Stephen. Thank you for the example as well. Okay, so what is product backlog? Like, for example, you want to make 10 vehicles. Toyota wants to make 10 vehicles in 2 days. And for example, they didn't meet up with 10 vehicles. They only made six, remaining four. So that four is a product backlog. Okay, so generally, what sprint means is just that you've programmed within a short time frame where you want to complete a specific set of tasks and deliver it. Okay, all right. So within a short time, you've boxed an activity to be done. Okay, that's the sprint we're talking about here. Okay, so all right. So is it when the sprinting you're done a project within the time frame? Okay. No, what we're saying here is that sprint is a technical term in Scrum, okay? But generally in the Agile framework, where you try to get an activity done, okay? Just like it has a short distance, okay, a short time, okay, like let's say between 1 to 2 weeks, maybe max, maybe 4 weeks, okay. That's a sprint, okay. So let's say 1 to 2 weeks you want to get it done, and within a short time, okay. So the duration is not usually changed, so it's consistent. It follows a consistent rhythm for you to achieve what you want, and it is goal oriented. So that sprint is goal oriented, it is timed. Okay, you specify what you want to do and you do everything to assure that you get it done. So those are the sprints we're talking about. Okay, so it is done incrementally, gradually. Then we value teamwork in Agile. Okay, and then like I said, it's iterative. Okay, so frequently you reassess the work that has been done so that the final work can be better. Okay, so you also cooperate with your client. Okay, so you try to understand the needs of the customer, like when you're doing a mobile app, okay, for like someone who, like Jumia, for example. Let's take Jumia. I'm sure like for example, they want to do a mobile app, and they keep test you need to test it from time to time to be sure that there are no bugs and all that. Okay, and so also in Agile, we try to prioritize flexibility, and the turnaround time. You don't have so much time to waste. Okay, there is a whole lot you need to consider, and you must be able to, according to a recent research, it said that the ability to manage change priorities is about 88% using Agile, and team productivity has increased through the tasks that have been allocated daily by 83%, and the project visibility due to the planned systems that were implemented, okay, has made about 83%. So we can see that that's why we said about 94% of organizations globally are using Agile. Okay, so it's very key, very important to understand that. So now, Agile is a framework, okay, that embodies different technology, different methodologies. Under the Agile framework, we have Scrum, we have Kanban, we have hybrid, we have lean methodology, we have bimodal, we have XP. There are a whole lot you can mention. Okay, so yeah, when you say sprint, okay, like for example, there could be other. See, now let's get an understanding, okay, Juliet, get an understanding. When you say you are supposed to complete a project within 4 weeks, remember there can be project constraints, okay. It may not be exactly that, because you've itemized all the things that are needful for the project, for the vehicle to be done in 4 weeks. Possibly one of the parts that are being used gets faulty. You can't use it anymore. You need to, if there are no spares, you need to book for another spare. Okay, you need to procure order. So anything can happen within that 4 weeks. But the aim of sprint is that once the time frame is set, the goal is within 4 weeks, you should be able to complete the task. Okay, so within that time frame, you should be able to do that. Okay, that's the idea. Okay, I hope you clearly understand. So it's not the sprint backlog, it's the product itself. The essence of sprint in you as for you to use or implement in your project is for you to arrive at the final product. Okay, so it's not the fault of the sprint. So if for any reason you're not able to get the vehicle completed, like the 10 vehicles, and you were only able to get 6, why were you not able to get the remaining 4 done? There must be some things that happened in between that made you not be able to get it. Okay, so that's just the concept, that's the idea. Okay, so agile frameworks is a generic term, okay, that covers different methodologies and techniques. Okay, but I've said it's clear what agile framework wants to achieve. Okay, so now that we understand what agile, remember, it came from a concept of 17 software developers, but now we are relating these agile methodologies to project management because they are being implemented not just by software organizations, but different organizations that cut across different industries, different sectors, different areas, different aspects, and they are being implemented today simply because of the what? The technology behind it, the ideology behind it. It is flexible. You can change anything at any time, even if it's towards the end of the project. Something can still be done. So that's the idea. Okay, so when we have that at the back of our mind, it means that it's telling us that the agile methodology is one of the simplest and effective processes to turn a vision of a project into a solution. So, regardless of what the project is, it turns your vision into fruition. Okay, so agile is a term which is used to describe software development approaches that employ, now this is the point, there's continual planning, there is learning, there is improvement, there is team collaboration. The entire process evolves, and you deliver your result quite early. And it also encourages flexibility to change at any point in time. That's why a lot of people use Agile. Agile is not an app, okay? It's not an app. It's a methodology. Just like as um, we are human beings, for example, right? We are using a lot of us use Uber, Taxify, and all that. Okay, so those processes, how did they achieve? How how did they achieve the mobile app? Many of these developers used the agile methodology. Okay, of what? Planning, learning. So as they are writing the codes, okay, they are testing it, they are implementing it to check whether there are issues. Okay, are there bugs? Okay, somebody should be able to, when you when you place order for a ride, okay, the taxi driver should be able to pick your signal. Okay, what is methodology? Methodology is a set of a process that you use to achieve something, a process you put in place. Okay, all right, okay. I hope, Christian, do you get that? What is methodology? Do you understand method? From the word method, you are systematic, you are using patterns to achieve something. Okay, all right. Now, every university has its methodology. Okay, from your year one till the day you graduate, they set a system in place for you to. If you don't follow that process, it will be difficult for you to graduate. That is the idea. Okay, I hope you get that. Okay, all right. So that's the concept. That's the idea. That's the focus. All right. So agile is just like, if you are able to pick that process and apply it to your project, you should get results. That is it. Okay. All right. So if you plan, while you're planning, you are learning something, you are improving, you have a team that works together, and they are able to evolve in the processes that they are applying, they should be able to what? To deliver on that particular project. That is what it is saying. Okay. But the idea came from 17 software developers, called an agile manifesto. Okay. So it's just like a bylaw, it's just like an agenda. So agile is just like a process which has been adopted today by different organizations to achieve success. Okay, so let's look at some of the frameworks. Okay, remember, agile is the mother. Okay, agile is the parent. While we have scrum, we have kanban, we have hybrid, we have bimodal, we have lean methodology. Some organizations apply, like a lot of hospitals that I know use lean methodology. Okay, so now let's look at scrum. Scrum uses the sprint methodology, where you break down the scope of work into short cycles. Okay, it's not just one cycle, they break it gradually. Okay, all right, it is broken down. Okay, like between 1 to 4 weeks. Okay, week one we want to achieve this, they achieve it, they go into week two, they achieve it, they go into week three, achieve it, they go into week four, just like that. And the team follows the plan for each week, for each sprint. Okay, the team follows it strictly, no deviation. Okay, and then every person that is working on that project has a role. Okay, your role is clearly defined. That is scrum for you. Okay, then let's look at kanban. Kanban is where development is built on workflow. Okay, you visualize the workflow. This is how we want it to go, this is the direction we want it to go, there's a diagram. Okay, you prioritize the current work. Okay, that particular work that is in progress is where everybody puts all their effort. So there is nothing like cycles. Okay, we can just gather and say we want to achieve this, everybody comes together and we put hands, we put all our efforts, and we get it done. So the team can change the work plan at any time. So that is kanban for you. The team can wake up in the morning and say, we want to change this plan, we don't work like this, we want to work the other way around. That's kanban process. But in scrum, everybody follows what? The sprint. Okay, you follow the cycle week by week, judiciously. You can't alter it. Then we have the hybrid. Hybrid is where agile and waterfall complement each other. Okay, so you can have a fixed deadline, but you can forecast your budget. So you can tweak here and there. You can make changes. You can decide to full go linear. You can go straightforward. Work breakdown structure. It's just semantics. Okay, sprint. What is sprint? Sprint is just, you have broken down your work into cycles. This is how we want to do it. So but work breakdown structure is, you are breaking down. Is there a difference? It's just the name. Work breakdown structure. Break down your work in a way that you can what? Easily what? Do it. That is it. And then we have others. Okay, we have bimodal. We may not be able to look at all of them. Our focus tonight is not just to look at, but I just want you to have an idea that we have different frameworks under the agile methodology. So the major idea is to have an understanding of what the agile methodology is. You plan, you work towards step by step, and see which one you should be able to apply in your project process. So there's no one size fits all process. Okay, all right. So like the bimodal, if you look at the name bi-modal, two modes, okay? You are combining the traditional method and the agile method. Two separate teams are working on projects with two different what? Two different goals. So you can, sometimes you see organizations like a group, okay, where they are building a hotel, and at the same time building that hotel, they are also building a stadium. So two different goals, but they are actually working, you know, right, on different projects at the same time. So um, team one can actually be focusing on maybe infrastructure, while another one may be focusing on something else. So what is the difference between waterfall? Is linear in nature, very linear, very linear in nature. So when we talk about um, um, waterfall, okay, waterfall has actually been there since the 70s. Okay, it's been there. It's you introduce sequential chrono. That's they are in chronology. They are in they follow a very similar pattern, like where you are in a manufacturing industry. Okay, you're in a construction industry where there are little or no changes at every stage. Okay, it's just there. Okay, you want the final product is the syrup. Okay, the bottle, something picks up the bottle, okay, takes it to the next part where it is checked. The bottle is checked very well. Another stage, it goes to the next. So it's just the system has already been put in place to run. You can't change anything. Okay, it's just straightforward. Okay, so it's been there for quite some time, but I think some agile is coming up to say, oh, okay, we can change. So um when you have a project where um so waterfall is more like you have a more thorough planning. Okay, you have to do a lot of documentation. The the process is very tight. Okay, um the risks are very low because the process is already, a whole lot of things have been put just to make it the way it is. So it must work like that. It must go like that. Okay. So yeah, like Julius Berger doing multiple projects across the country. Yeah. So you don't know them alone for just construction. They can be doing here, they can be doing other things, they can be erecting a skyscraper. And please, from my explanation, waterfall and scrum are not the same. Waterfall is a traditional process. It's very linear. Okay, there is very strict, but there may be similarities, but they are not the same. Okay, so waterfall doesn't use sprints. Okay, you don't break anything down into durations, into weeks. It's not part of it. Okay, so um okay, any other? I'm looking at the chat box. Let's see. Oh, we can talk about all the frameworks tonight, but if there's still time, I can talk about that. Okay. So they both the scrum and waterfall, they both follow similar frameworks, but they are not the same. Their philosophies are different. Or the aim is, at the end of the day, deliver your product. Okay. But waterfall is very sequential in nature, very, very sequential. Okay. So but scrum is not sequential. Okay. It's not the same. Okay. So waterfall must start from you itemizing your requirements to your design, then before implementation. But scrum, you have to plan first. Okay. Then before you get to your divide into cycles, and then you talk about development, then you now review. Okay. But waterfall doesn't have, you don't give you that platform for reviewing. Like, so you go to after testing, you just go to deployment, and then you maintain. That's all. So they are very, they're not so similar. Their processes are different. Okay. So all right. I think, okay, let's conclude. Then, if there are questions, we can take questions so that we don't. So, let's give an example of um, so traditionally, the waterfall methodology, like the banking system, where they are using an online banking system where you have to, when you go to bank, you manage your account, transfer money, pay bills, and view statements. All these things are already set up. So there's nothing you cannot alter anything. So it's there, it's there. The system has already been designed that way. You cannot alter anything. Okay. So that's the idea. Okay. For example, we have a development team that is building a new mobile banking app using the Scrum framework. So first, the product owner, please just listen so that you can always Google some of these questions you're asking. We can be talking about the difference between bimodal and hybrid. I think I actually gave a framework where which we can see. So if you look at hybrid uses both agile and waterfall. Bimodal also the same thing, but the difference here is that bimodal can be working on two different projects at the same time. That's just the idea. Okay. So it can work on two different, but hybrid doesn't do that. Hybrid doesn't do that. Okay. So that's the concept. So let's look at the example. Our time is almost up. So the new banking app, okay, you can maybe First Bank or any other bank, okay, or new generation bank or any. So the process starts with the product owner who maintains a prioritized product backlog, that is a list of features and requirements based on what they feel that should be in that particular app. So at the start of each sprint, so the sprint takes 2 weeks, the team holds a sprint planning meeting, okay, to select a set of tasks from the work that they have done to work on. So these tasks form the sprint backlog, okay. So each time they want to work, they just pick up items. These are what we're going to do. Okay. So yes, the task that needs to be completed, that's your sprint backlog here. Okay. All right. Then during the sprint, the development team works hand in hand, okay, to complete these tasks. Within themselves, they hold a daily scrum meeting, which is just like a brief where we come together, discuss what exactly are the challenges that we have faced, okay, the progress we are making, and what are our next plans. So at the end of each sprint, the team delivers something that looks like a working piece of the application. So which they take back to the product owner. Say, this is where we are. This is what, okay, I think it's nice. I think it's okay. But no, let's adjust something. Okay. Within that 2 weeks, they are doing this. Okay. So, and what next? So a sprint review is then held where the stakeholders provide feedback on that work that the development team have done, which is now followed by a sprint retrospective. That is, the team now reflects, it's just like it's a feedback, okay, where they now reflect on the feedback of their performance and now identify those areas which the product owner and other stakeholders have talked about, so that they can now improve it on the next sprint. So you can see that small changes are happening in between, from where the daily sprint meetings are holding and then where the sprint review. So through this process, Scrum now helps the team to stay focused, respond quickly to changes, and continuously deliver functional software with high stakeholder um, involvement. So we can see that everybody on board is trying to do something very useful. So this is just at a glance what I just explained. Okay, the product owner, where we have executives, teams, stakeholders, customers, users. Exactly. It's just like a design sprint for UI UX designers. Thank you so much. I think I have product designers here too. So they look at a list of what exactly do we need to be done in that. Then the product backlog is now taken by that team, the development team. They work with it, select, look at order of priority, fix a sprint, maybe 2 weeks, and then have a meeting for themselves, which is now the sprint planning meeting. And then they break their task based on what they need to do. So when they do it within themselves, after that, they go back. They take the result of what they have doing back to the product owner to say, this is what we have done. They take this feedback as the product owner, look at it, and if there's any review, they give it back to the team to work with until the final work is done. That is how we now have today. We have our mobile apps. Sometimes you don't have issues, but where you have issues, so you can see that most times you have customer care. They take it back for feedback, and then there are frequent updates from time to time. So you can see how that system works. So the same thing happens for Kanban. I also just chose to add one for Kanban here, where Kanban is also used a vehicle um, organization, a vehicle like Toyota. Okay, so where as soon as a task is completed, the team can take the next item that they have in line. So the development process becomes simpler and faster. Okay, so originating from a visual system of cars used in Toyota manufacturing as a production control method, Kanban is used here, where once they finish one task, they go over to the next. This is the diagram of a Kanban that is being used. Look at the backlog. This is a list of what they want to be done. Okay, and this is what is in progress. When they pick, once they complete one in that line, they go over to the next and go over to the next. So like a marketing campaign team, okay, that launched a new product campaign, they implemented Kanban by using a visual board, either physical like a whiteboard, or a digital board like Trello or Jira. So the board is now divided into columns where you label them to do. You also have in progress, you also have review, and then done. So each marketing task um, is such that they create a social media post, now designing promotional flyers or writing blog content. So at the point we know this is our to-do task, this is in progress, this is under review, and this is what done. That is the idea. Tina, just listen. Once you listen, the diagram is not really it's not really dynamic. You can always speak, but get the explanation. Okay, so from your backlog is like your to do. Okay, this is what we want to do. The process in progress, this is what is in progress already. Then the next is we have in review. You list out what is under the review, and then when it is done, you tick it. So that is how we can always get some of these processes done. So that is how Kanban works. So sometimes in some of our organizations, we see people say that have you checked your to-do list and all that. So that is it. So I think so generally Scrum is not the same with Kanban. Okay. All right. Yes, like a visual, like using a colored sticky note. So that is just the idea. The essence is we need to review from time to time to know what we need to do. Please remember that our tech event is coming up on the 31st of May 2025 by 7 p.m. Breaking into Tech, a global approach to the fourth industrial revolution. So, this class tonight is just to give you an idea of these methodologies and frameworks. So, Agile is good if you understand it. So, you can always go a step further, Google, read up different frame things just to keep yourself informed. I hope we have learned something tonight. Um, Wishing all a very wonderful weekend ahead, and see you next week. Okay. No, we don't need to do it separately as a course. Okay. We don't. It's just if a methodology on in project management which you need to be aware of. On behalf of Digital Skill Africa, my name remains Kingsley Adiole, and with me tonight as a co-facilitator is Nancy Baba Ali. Thank you so much, and once again have a restful night. Bye bye.